Let him have it, Mac.
So Sonic Frontiers has been out for a little while now, and I've been thinking about all of the islands in the game, and I was wondering to myself, which of these is the best? So in today's video, I'm going to go through and rank all of the islands from worst to best. In order for me to do this properly, I had to consider everything about these islands, like the music, the bosses you fight, the titans you fight, the story, and of course the overall island presentation. There's a lot that can be considered in choosing the best island, so let's not waste any more time and get into ranking these islands from worst to best.
So tasty!
There are 5 islands in Sonic Frontiers, and I think at my 5 spot I have to say Rhea Island is definitely going to be here. Not only is there no boss battle here, but there really isn't a whole lot to do other than climb these giant towers. Now, admittedly, that was a lot of fun for what it was, and finding out more about the story and the lore was pretty interesting. But in terms of the actual gameplay itself, well, I mean, climbing the towers of course was anxiety inducing, but that was really the extent of what you do. After you beat this island, going back to it is kind of, there's nothing to do. But on its own, as a first playthrough, as you hear the music as Sonic climbs these towers and you're afraid of falling off the edge, which I did numerous times on my first and second playthrough of this game, you begin to realize how cool this island truly is. Even though it's at my 5 spot, it's only there because of a lack of content, not truly just because the island itself is bad. At my number 4 spot, and this is actually extremely hard for me because there's some really great redeeming aspects of this island, and there are some areas of this island that are actually better than most of the other islands in this game. Unfortunately, Chaos Island is going to be at my 4 spot, and it's only because I hate this level's presentation. There's so much 2D, and it all feels so clunky at sometimes. You see, here's the thing about the 2D sections in Sonic Frontiers. Once you walk into one, you're basically committed. You have to go through and finish it, and there really is no turning back. And with Chaos Island, there's no exception. Actually, you get a ton more of that than any other island. But to me, I think the worst part about Chaos Island is truly it is the worst island to traverse. After my playthroughs and finishing Sonic Frontiers, it's the island I go back to the least amount of time because to me, it's just not nearly as fun as all the other ones. Navigating this island can be a huge pain in the butt because of all the rail grinding that you have to do to get to each smaller little island, and also the plethora of 2D sections. That said, there are some pretty great redeeming qualities of Chaos Island, like for example, the giant Titan boss battle. This boss was truly amazing and the best in the game. I'd even argue it's the best in the entire Sonic the Hedgehog franchise. Speaking of which, I actually made a video talking about all of the Titan boss battles ranked in Sonic Frontiers, which you should definitely go check out after this one. But either way, I found the night boss battle to be super climactic, and the music was just really fitting for every single moment of this island. This is not a great island in my opinion, but there are so many great things about it, including Tails' story with Sonic and the interaction the two characters seem to have. I for one have to say I thoroughly enjoyed Tails' character development in this game, although it was not my favorite out of all the characters that were present. But I will say this, he gets the second place spot. Overall, I'd say Chaos Island is just a pretty good island. Going into Sonic Frontiers, I thought this would be my favorite one as it looked to be one of the cooler, darker ones, and I was looking forward to a pretty interesting quest on it. But in the end, it turned out to be kind of a disappointment, but there were so many great things about it that I feel like it's just okay in the end. But seriously, that Night Titan at the end truly makes up for it. As for my number 3 spot, I have to give that to Kronos Island. You see, this is actually a really good island, but I think its major flaw is that it's really small. Once you start off, you're thinking that this island is pretty massive, and in comparison to all the other ones, it feels like you can kind of traverse it in a matter of minutes. But I feel like size is the only factor that plays into my problem with this island. There's so much to love about Kronos Island, like the boss battles. Like, I love fighting against Asura. I know a lot of people aren't a fan of the giant hand boss that seems to slap the ground endlessly, but I really did enjoy that. Climbing up its arms and then hitting him constantly and then falling off and doing the whole thing again. I actually really enjoyed that. Not to mention, I really did enjoy the tactical approach this boss had where you can do a side loop around its leg and get an extra gear before you actually end up beating him. Asura is one of the few bosses in this game, and correct me if I'm wrong, that's strict to one location. Like, you can't find Asura on any other island except for Kronos, and I think this is one of the reasons I keep going back to Kronos just because I like fighting Asura. Anyway, this island also has one of the most interesting cyberspace levels, and that's 1-2. You see, this is the second cyberspace level, yet it's one of the hardest in the game to S rank in my opinion. It felt like no matter what I did, I was always just 1 or 2 seconds behind the mark. but eventually I was able to S rank it and it was super rewarding. All the other cyberspace levels really aren't like this, but there are a few that are just hard for no reason at all. Unfortunately for me, I'm not a huge fan of the cyberspace levels, which is why I hardly ever bring them up in any Sonic Frontiers video, and I really didn't consider them that much as a factor in ranking the islands in this one because they all were just kind of okay to me. There really wasn't a bad cyberspace level. But either way, 1-2 really stood out to me because of how much fun I had playing it, and I think that really helped propel Kronos Island on this list and made it at the number 3 spot for me. Of course, there were other factors at play in why Kronos Island is at my 3 spot, like Amy's interaction with Sonic and her overall characterization, and same thing goes for Giganto, but I feel like saying the Titan bosses are good is pretty much a given at this point. Like, if we're all being honest with ourselves, the Titan bosses are clearly a highlight of this game. There is not a bad one, there's just some better than others. Moving on to the penultimate island is Ouranos Island. You see, this is everything I feel like Kronos Island should have been. It's a huge grassy field, and honestly, it's like they kind of cut off this part of Kronos Island and just made it its own separate island, which isn't a bad thing, but a little more variety could have been a little interesting too. That said, this island is significantly bigger than Kronos Island, and I think for that reason, it immediately takes the cake. The bosses here are also pretty cool. I don't think there's any exclusive bosses to this territory than any of the other ones, but I will always still avoid that stupid caterpillar. I know this is not the first time it's made an appearance here, but goodness gracious, if I see this thing, I'm running in the opposite direction. There's also these like weird little puma things that run around in a circle around you. I don't think this is the first time they make an appearance here, but it's one of the first times I actually noticed them when I was playing the game. And even though it's a little time consuming, I still find them pretty fun to fight. Another big reason I like Ouranos Island is the fact that the music feels so mysterious, yet you're at the end of the game. You know that there's this big climactic battle coming up, and at this point in the game, you've kind of already been through a lot, so what more could they possibly throw at you? To me, the final boss was, well, to say the least, a little disappointing, but that doesn't diminish the overall mysterious feeling I felt from this island, even towards the very end of the game. Oh yeah, the Supreme Titan was also pretty cool to fight, but as I said in my previous video about the ranking all the Titans or whatever, the Supreme Boss fight, the only reason I wasn't a huge fan of it was because I feel like everything it had already done had been done before with other Titan bosses, but that doesn't make it bad or any less good. It's still really fun, but just not my favorite. So with that in mind, I feel like it's essential to note here that the true best part of this island is exploration. I feel like this island is so vast, so big, that it basically is just saying, hey, explore me. And I have so much fun doing that every time I play this game. Oh shoot, I forgot to mention that the bosses that this island has, like the Master Ninja Guardian boss, are we serious? Like, I love fighting the ninja boss in the Kronos Islands, but fighting an even more advanced, stronger ninja boss, it's like, oh my gosh, this is perfect. Because the one thing about this game that I really do enjoy, like more than just about everything else, is that no matter what island you go to, there will always be a number of bosses that you can fight that were generally pretty fun to fight against. And with that in mind, you can beat them in a numerous amount of ways. So when I was fighting against bosses like these that actually got stronger as the game progressed, I was forced to kind of go out of my comfort zone and learn new moves that made me even better at the game. The ninja bosses are easily some of my favorites in the game, so fighting against an upgraded, even stronger version of that, yeah, no, this was definitely going to help take the cake as one of the better islands of the game just by including something like this. Oh, and also this island gave us a lot of Sage and Sonic interaction time, which was pretty dang great. Because I feel like, for the most part, throughout the entirety of this game, it's always been Sonic and Sage at odds, and we really didn't know a whole lot about Sage up until this point. So this island gave us a lot of time to truly learn more about her character, and just how she interacts with Sonic in general. At this point, I feel like you already know what the #1 choice of the best island in Sonic Frontiers is, and that goes to Ares Island. You see, I love this island because, much like the same reason as I loved Ouranos, this one is huge. It is, once again, basically just saying, hey, explore me. And I think the things that made Ares and Ouranos so much greater than all the other islands is because not only is it saying, hey, explore me, but it actually feels fun to explore it and even to get lost at sometimes. When I was playing Chaos Island, getting lost was like basically every 5 seconds, and I didn't have a whole lot of fun when I was getting lost because I was just getting frustrated because I kept ending up at the exact same spot, wondering how I get to where I'm supposed to go. But here, with Ares and Ouranos, especially Ares in this case, it feels like when I get lost, I'm always brought to somewhere I haven't seen before, and I actually am more tempted to explore even further than I was going to initially. But here's why Ares Island is better than all of the other islands. Not only is it fun to explore, the Titan boss is amazing, Sonic and Knuckles have the best interactions out of any other characters in this game, and Knuckles probably has one of the best character developments too. In terms of music, it may not be the best, but it's still very good. And to my knowledge, it's the only island to have sumo. Which, I mean, yeah, no, this island is going to be the best. This island also does not have squid, so there won't be any of those weird random... Yeah, that just doesn't happen in Ares Island, which already makes it top tier. Also, I don't like squid if you couldn't tell. But anyway, the funniest thing about Ares Island to me is that I'm usually not someone who's keen on sand levels or desert worlds or whatever they may be, but Ares Island was just awesome to me. So I feel like if you hear me say something like it, then you know Ares Island has to be pretty good. I mean, I even enjoyed that little crane game they had at the end. I mean, it definitely wasn't that little laser light show dinosaur thing or a pinball, so yeah, no, the crane definitely was not bad at all. All jokes aside, that's my ranking for the Sonic Frontiers Islands. I think that this is the definitive order. Just kidding. But if you have any thoughts on your personal ranking of the islands, let me know all of them in the comment section down below. I'd love to see what you guys have to say. As always, leave a like and subscribe on the video if you enjoyed it. But anyway, thank you all again so much for watching. This is Sonic signing out. Have a super blessed day, y'all. I'll see you in the next one.
Why are you playing that trash?